Welcome back. Today in the studio, we've got Carl Howe of Valtrust Capital Partners, and their website is retirementfoundationgroup.com. That's retirementfoundationgroup.com. And Carl and I have been talking about just getting ready to retire. I mean, 4th of July weekend, start to get to feel what it might be like if you could do this the rest of your life. That would be kind of great. You can golf with the kids and really get out, have some barbecues, go fishing, do the great things in life. So I want to make sure that I'm ready to do that when my time comes, and I want to make sure our listeners know that they can reach out to you, Carl, to help them with that planning. And before the break, we started talking a little bit about protecting your assets and trust and things like that. And to me, I think to the average citizen out there, it gets a little bit complicated, and they don't really understand what that means. All they know is that they want to protect themselves and make sure their kids aren't being double taxed on some of the things that they get. And so there's some strategies there. And so what I always say is just, call these people.
Well, that's one of the things you asked about. And when I said a while ago that we work multifunctional, well, we look at several areas of planning. We look at their estate plan. We look at their financial. We look at their healthcare. We look at their tax. And each area works with the other areas. And you could be deficient in one area and have the greatest planning in the other three, and it doesn't matter. You're going to wipe out your estate. So we want to make sure that everything's there. And when that time comes, if your children need to call our office and work with us, we're going to be there for them. And a lot of times when it comes to estate planning, we're not lawyers, but we work with estate planning lawyers. These are specialists who essentially will do the estate plan. We've done enough administrative work. In fact, we do notary services in our office. We help do the administrative. We're kind of like the go-between them and the attorney, because we want to keep the cost down in setting up an estate plan. But what we want to make sure is that the estate plan meets their needs. And a lot of people have been sold a bill saying, well, you need a trust. Your estate, people say, well, I thought that my estate isn't large enough for a trust. Well, the reality is if your estate's over 50, 60,000, and most people's are, including, just take their house, they're going to go through probate. What you want to do is you want to minimize or totally get probate out of the area, because probate is a public process. So you can actually today do a will, set your financial accounts up to where they pass to your heirs directly without probate, and you can even do a special enhanced life estate deed for your home, and it will go to your heirs without probate. So that's one area. But if you do need a trust for estate planning, for tax reductions, things like that, we're going to look at that. We're going to see which is the best plan for you. I don't think you need to buy more of a plan than you need, but you need the plan that you need.
Well, you made a good point about having equity in your home, and I do a lot of mortgages, have for many years, and a lot of the times, and you'll see, we'll do loans for people that have their home in a trust. It's a revocable trust, it's a family trust, and that's one way to keep it from going through the probate, I believe. And that's something that like you just said, and I was waiting for that number. You said if you got more than $50,000 equity in your house, you probably need to reach out to the show and reach out to us, and we'll kind of give you that guidance on how to put that home, that asset into a trust if you need, or just do an overall kind of like a health and wellness check on your financials.
Or again, Texas allows a special deed that's a beneficiary deed, but you got to have an attorney who knows how to set that up and prepare it for you.
And so beneficiary deed basically keeps it from going through probate. And basically when you die, warranty deed or something like that, but as a beneficiary deed instead.
Right.
A lot of times we'll see if a couple divorces and one spouse gets the house, they'll just do a warranty deed and sign over the house and their rights to the house. And it's a real quick process. I would think that would fall right into that same category.
It does. It's a special type of deed. It's called an enhanced life estate deed. And what it does is that you name your beneficiaries. While you're living, you and your spouse have total control of the home. If you want to sell it, you can sell it, okay? But when you're gone, it passes directly to your heirs. It does not go through probate. It goes directly to them, and it stays private and in the family.
You don't pass go and collect $200.
You got it.
All those things.
I love attorneys, but unfortunately, the fact is that they can be expensive. So if you can keep attorneys and the legal profession out of your estate, let the estate be handled by the people you care about. It should be your heirs. That's who it's going to go to. It shouldn't be under the control of the courts.
Well, let's talk about equity in homes for a little bit. And, those people that meet, like we mentioned earlier on the show, a lot of my clients will opt for the, 15-year mortgage. And people will call me up and say, hey, Steve, I know rates are at an all-time low. And this was a few months ago when they were at an all-time low, unfortunately. But they would call up and say, hey, I only owe like $50,000 on my house. It's $400,000 house, and it'll be paid off in 6 years. What do you think? Should I just, go ahead and take advantage? I'm at 6.5, rate. I can, what can you do for me? And I will look at it, and for the cost to refinance, I'll say, look, you're good. Just go ahead and pay. If you want to pay extra on your home, go ahead and do that. But, that's one thing that I do as a mortgage professional is I try to give you the facts and give you the advice and let you make your decision. But I also will give you that advice that if it's not smart for you to do this type of mortgage, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to give you my opinion. And so that's the thing I think you can get when you call our office is make sure that you're getting straight up advice. And the motivation for me personally is to do the right thing for you. And so with that said, there is another mortgage product out there that's called a reverse mortgage. And you may have heard about it on the radio, you may have seen some TV ads and things like that. And there's been some major changes in reverse mortgages in the last year, a lot of legislation. And quite frankly, it's a FHA product. It's a government-type product. And there have been some big losses at the FHA level in regards to the reverse mortgages and how it was structured initially, because I think it was a new product. They put it together. There were some mistakes made in the way it was structured. And so now they were doing long-term fixed rate product, things like that. Now it's more leaning toward adjustable rate. It's a very complex product. And if you want to know about reverse mortgages, make sure you call my office at 214-643-6021. That's 214-643-6021. There are some stipulations of who can and who can't, but if you need some extra cash flow, you want to call my office. You can get a lump sum payment. You can take a monthly income stream out of it. There's lots of ways to structure these reverse mortgages, and they are better today than they were 6 months ago when the legislation changed and the type of loans that were available out there. So it is better today. So I am offering those reverse mortgages at my office, and there are some interesting things that you can do with that money. And a lot of times I will talk to people and say, look, maybe you want to take it out of your house, put it into an investment product vehicle that's going to give you some additional income as well, or maybe just do the monthly payment. It depends on that person. And just, Carl, just like you said, there's no box that fits everybody.
Well, I like that. And the fact is, we don't recommend reverse mortgages. We just basically look at a client situation. We know, like in life, we can't help everybody. And yet there are people we can send to you. And you can look and see if that's going to benefit them. And in a lot of cases, it may be very beneficial to them. Because what I like about that, and again, is the fact that it's still their home. A lot of people think if I do reverse mortgage, I lost my home. That's not true. It's still your home. It's still in your name. They're only going to give you a portion of your equity. So you still are responsible for your taxes and your insurance. But you got money now that you can live with, maybe pay off some debts, maybe get caught up on some things, maybe get that freedom back that you had lost because you were tied to these debts. And again, I've had people come to me who said, I did this, but now I've got this lump sum of money. I need to make sure that it gives me some income in retirement. So we can work with that. And again, but we're going to send those people to you to work with. And just like we do our attorneys and our tax specialists, they work with our clients and we work together with that person. It's kind of a strategic alliance. It's providing an overall service to their complete estate planning needs.
And if you're thinking about a reverse mortgage and you want to know, okay, how long do I own the house? You own it until you pass away, or you own it until you can't live in that house for 6 months out of the year. And that's one of those things you need to know. If you're in a nursing home right now, you're probably not a candidate for a reverse mortgage. I would recommend you just sell the house. So those are the other options that you have there as well.
I wanted to point out, several years ago, I was working in the Midland, Odessa area, back before the oil boom popped back up. And I was working with a client who, unfortunately, was cash poor and house rich. And they did a reverse mortgage on their house, and they got out of debt. And it was really good. But the problem was, because the oil boom hadn't come back, the housing industry was going down in the Midland, Odessa area. So eventually it got to a point where their house, they owed more on the reverse mortgage than their house was worth. And they were worried about it for their kids. Well, the thing is, this is a government loan. Is that right, Steve? So their children are never going to be responsible for that. If that house is sold when they pass on, if there's any equity, it goes to the kids. But if there's any debt owed, it's a government loan. They're going to pay off that debt.
That's right.
Correct?
That's
Okay.
right. And so, like I said, it's complex. I really like to meet with people face to face on those type of loans and I like to meet with their heirs too, because a lot of the times it's a family decision. It's kind of a financial plan, a strategic decision on what you're going to do with that equity in that house, because it is like money in the bank. Basically, it's just your house. And so it's part of that financial strategy, which I'm sure, you look at that whole picture for people.
I do. I even ask my clients, I say, you got this house and it's worth this, and we're having some trouble here in income. Do your children, are they going to want your house when you pass on? They go, no, they don't want it. In fact, they don't even live in this city anymore. They moved out. So they're not going to. Well, then why don't you use that asset to benefit yourself? Why don't you use it? I'm going to pass you over to my good friend Steve Hakes and let him talk to you. Okay?
Well, thanks for joining us today, Carl. You've been listening to Carl Howe of ValTrust Capital Partners. This is a Real Talk Texas show. We've been glad to visit with you this weekend, and we look forward to talking to you next week. You're listening to AM 570 KLIF News and Information Radio.